Today you're going to learn how to make a creamy and triple layered iced matcha latte. I love matcha. It's just one of those flavors that is always readily available, especially when you're not in a coffee mood and you're not in a tea mood. You can always count on a good matcha latte. Both hot or cold, count me in. There's so many different techniques and ways and traditions when it comes to matcha latte, and today I'm going to share with you my personal favorite. And not only that, we're gonna kick it up a notch at the end and make it a triple layer, because why not? So whether you're planning on making this recipe at home or for your bubble tea cafe, it's super easy to make and only uses 3 ingredients. So I hope that you enjoy me sharing my favorite recipe with you today. So let's get started. So to begin, you'll need 2 flat teaspoons of matcha powder. Whether you decide to use the normal matcha powder that you can find at majority of stores, or you decide to go for a ceremonial, more expensive matcha grain powder, it's totally up to you. Ultimately, the decision is yours. What's your personal preference? Or what price range do you feel comfortable with selling it at your shop? I've got just 2 different examples here of matcha that I've picked up. I don't really have one in particular that I'm a huge fan of. I've tried loads of different ones over the years, and I think that all of them yield different results and different tastes. So to begin, we're going to put 2 teaspoons of matcha powder into a small bowl. And I like to use the back of a knife, the flat side of a knife. Get it off, back into there. Just like that. There's 1. Number 2. I definitely think that 2 teaspoons with this recipe is perfect. Although my husband, not being as much of a matcha fan as me, prefers 1 teaspoon. So when I'm making this recipe at home, I do 2 teaspoons for myself, and then when I make him a drink, I just do 1. So you can just experiment over time to figure out, do you prefer 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, or in between? Then you're just going to use your same teaspoon and put 3 teaspoons of room temperature water into the matcha powder. This is a bamboo whisk. I've easily picked them up at garage sales or thrift shops for super cheap, or alternatively, you can order them online. They have various price ranges, so just find one that suits you. If you're a matcha fan, I definitely recommend having one of these bamboo whisks in your cupboard. They'll last you a really long time if you take good care of them. I know a lot of people tend to sift their matcha powder. I find that with a bamboo whisk, you don't really need to. However, if the brand that you're using is super clumpy, then be sure to give it a quick sift before you actually get to this step. And I'm going to go ahead and give this a really good whisk. It's a little bit of a circular, but then you want to go back and forth, kind of like an N or a W. That will really help to aerate the matcha and make sure that there are no pieces left unturned. And you also want to make sure that all of the matcha is completely broken down and become a really nice liquid form. We don't want any clumps. That's definitely one of the benefits to this matcha whisk, is it was created for matcha. I've tried other things like the electric whisk or a normal whisk, and it really just doesn't break it down. But a matcha bamboo whisk does. So as you can see, when we first started, as opposed to a few seconds later, there are no more clumps in this. And it has a nice frothiness with the bubbles on top as well. Mixing matcha with water, whether it's room temperature or hot, actually is super easy when you have a bamboo whisk, so I definitely recommend it. And of course, whenever you're done using a bamboo whisk, you just want to give it a really good rinse and leave it to dry. Now this next step with the matcha, you can actually continue to do in this container. I do it at home, but just for this video, I'm going to transfer it into here and I'll show you the next step. Next, we're going to add 70 milliliters of whole milk. You can definitely do a milk alternative for this recipe, but I find that whole milk yields the best results. If you've got your bamboo whisk, feel free to continue to use it. But I've got my miniature electric whisk, and I like how it turns out with it. This one I have is a mini USB connector, so I don't have to worry about constantly trading in batteries all the time, especially in a shop location. All you have to do is just plug it in overnight, it's ready to go. I just found this online. There's loads of different brands available. I like this one because it has 3 different speed settings, and to begin, we're going to be using it on setting 1. And I'll be using this attachment, which is a double whisk. Then I'm going to go up to speed setting number 2, and then number 3. And you might think to yourself, well, why not just put the matcha into the milk? Why do I have to go through that first step? Well, having done this a lot, I have tried that technique and it just doesn't quite work. Even with this double whisk on setting level 3, you still tend to get clumps in the end result, even when you mix it into the final drink product. There's just something about using that bamboo whisk with the matcha in the beginning step with a little bit of water that really makes a difference. But in this step, we're adding it to the whole milk and we're really aerating and frothing it. It only takes an extra few seconds, but it does make a difference. So now we're going to put this off to the side. Next, we're going to measure 60 milliliters of whole milk into a container that we're going to be giving a quick stir. Put in 1 teaspoon of honey. And this honey is local Minx honey. It comes from my friend Tanya, who is a fellow YouTube content creator. I'll be sure to link her channel up here and in the description. Tanya's channel, Lovely Greens, is all about gardening, specifically on the Isle of Man. And this honey she gifted from her allotment from her own bees. Thank you so much, Tanya. I love this honey. Can't wait to use it. And now we're gonna give it a really quick stir and try to combine the honey as much as possible. Also, you can use this on the lowest setting, but just make sure only do it for a few seconds just to combine the honey and the milk. We don't actually want to froth the milk. And last but not least, for the final layer, we're going to put 50 milliliters into our container and give it a really good whisk. Now we want to make it super, super frothy. So I'm going to put it on level 3 and go as long as I can until I get the consistency that I want. It's not necessarily the speed that's going to get you that frothiness. I find that actually doing it on the first level, when you have the double whisk, works really well. So in this scenario, I started it on level 3, really gave it a good whip, and then I went back down to level 1. And as you can see here, it's nice and thick and creamy. And now it is time to compile our drink. First, add your milk mixture to your cup, followed by 4 large ice cubes. Try to stack some of the ice cubes if you can, because that way when you're pouring the matcha mixture on it, it will help to create more of a layered effect. And last but not least, spoon your foam on the very top. Wow, this looks amazing. I can't wait to try it. All right, let's give this a try. Oh, yum, yum, yum. I could drink this all day long. It is so good. Not too overly sweet, not too matcha strongish for me. Of course, my husband likes less matcha-y, but regardless, for me, this is perfect. Such good creaminess, consistency. Love the matcha flavor, so good. Absolutely perfect. Thanks so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.